She kissed me goodbye, packed a bag for a romantic weekend, and smiled like nothing was wrong. 10 minutes after she drove away, I uncovered a secret so monstrous it shattered everything I believed about my marriage. The betrayal was never just an affair. It was a carefully planned trap, and the people behind it wanted to destroy my entire life. So I stayed silent, emptied the accounts, disappeared without a fight, and began a revenge they never saw coming. But the truth I uncovered next was even more horrifying than the cheating itself. Alright Reddit, buckle up because this one is an absolute nightmare, and the betrayal goes deeper than I ever thought possible. My wife joined some toxic women's empowerment circle that turned her into a completely different person. She started coming home at 2 a.m., smelling like men's cologne, lying about where she was, and telling me I was controlling for asking basic questions. But the real kicker? The person she was cheating with, and the people cheering her on from the sidelines. Here is exactly what went down. I, 34, female, work as a senior financial analyst for a major regional investment firm here in Austin, Texas. I have been grinding at this career for about 12 years now, working my way up from an entry-level number cruncher to a senior position. The job pays very well, it keeps me busy, and honestly, I am incredibly good at it. Numbers make sense to me. They do not lie, they do not manipulate, they do not tell you one thing and mean another behind your back. People? Not so much, apparently. My wife, Vanessa, 32 female, and I got married 7 years ago. I met her at a mutual friend's birthday party, back when we were both in our mid-20s. She was sharp, funny, and had this magnetic confidence that drew me in immediately. We dated for 3 years before I proposed, then spent another year planning the wedding. Everything felt so incredibly right. We bought a house together 5 years ago, nothing overly fancy, but it was ours. A beautiful, modern, colonial style in a decent, quiet neighborhood. The kind of place where you wave at your neighbors and they actually wave back. White picket fence energy, you know the exact vibe. For most of those 7 years, things were genuinely good. We had our comfortable routines. Tuesday nights were always takeout Thai food from this little place downtown that we both absolutely loved. We would sit at the kitchen island, eat straight from the cartons, and talk about our days. Weekends were lazy mornings, drinking black coffee on the back porch, and running errands in the afternoon. We were not the most chaotic or exciting couple, but we were solid. We were stable. At least I thought we were. Looking back, I should have seen the massive, glaring red flags earlier. But when you are in a marriage, you make excuses. You assume the absolute best of your partner. You tell yourself it is just a rough patch. You convince yourself that the woman you married is still in there somewhere, even when the mounting evidence screams otherwise. To understand the full scope of this betrayal, you need to know about my parents. I come from a very conservative, traditional family. When I came out as a lesbian at 22, it went over like a lead balloon. Before coming out, I had dated a guy named Daniel all through college. Daniel was a wealthy, arrogant, pre-law student whom my parents absolutely worshipped. He was their golden boy. When I broke up with him and came out, my parents were devastated. Over the years, they tolerated Vanessa. They smiled politely at our wedding. They came over for holidays. But there was always this underlying chill. My mother would constantly drop little passive-aggressive hints. Oh, I ran into Daniel at the country club. He's a senior partner now. Such a shame you two grew apart. I always rolled my eyes and ignored it, thinking it was just their generational ignorance. I had no idea how deeply their obsession with Daniel ran. The whole mess with Vanessa started about 6 weeks before everything exploded into a million pieces. Vanessa came home from work one Tuesday, absolutely buzzing with excitement about this new group she had found through social media. She called it the Austin Women's Sovereign Circle. Women supporting women, she said. A safe space to talk about real, raw issues without any judgment. At first, it seemed entirely harmless. Coffee meetups on Saturday mornings. Book discussions on Wednesday evenings. She would come home energized, talking about how refreshing it was to connect with women who truly understood her inner struggles. I was happy she had something outside of work and our daily routine. Everyone needs friends. Everyone needs a community. I was not about to be that toxic, controlling spouse who complained about his wife having a social life. But then, the meetings started getting much more frequent. 3 times a week, then 4. The evening meetup started lasting later and later. 11 at night, midnight, then 2 in the morning, on a Tuesday before work day. And her entire vocabulary changed in ways that felt heavily rehearsed, like she was reading directly from a script someone else had written. Suddenly, everything I did was patriarchal mimicking. Every question I asked was emotional labor. I was being unfairly demanding. Every concern I expressed was me trying to reclaim toxic power over her. The woman I married did not talk like this. She had always been direct, practical, and straightforward. These were someone else's words coming out of her mouth, and I started to intensely wonder whose. The leader of this absurd group was a woman named Monica, divorced at 28, never remarried. And from what I could tell from her extensive social media presence, she seemed to collect married women as followers like trading cards. Her feed was completely full of aesthetic quotes about knowing your worth, refusing to settle, and breaking free from the chains of societal expectations. It was all very inspirational if you completely ignored the fact that every single one of her relationships had crashed and burned spectacularly. Then there was Jasmine, who had 2 kids with 2 different fathers and simply could not understand why neither man wanted to stay deeply involved in her chaotic life. She posted constantly about being a strong, independent, fierce mother, while simultaneously blasting the fathers of her children on Facebook for not stepping up financially. The cognitive dissonance was truly impressive. And finally, Amber, who was on her 3rd engagement and worked in some ridiculous pyramid scheme selling quantum vitality elixirs or whatever the newest MLM scam was. She would post relentlessly about building her empire as an entrepreneur, while simultaneously asking to borrow money from friends because she had invested her entire life savings into inventory that was sitting rotting in her garage. 3 divorces between the 3 of them, 4 kids with absent fathers, 7 failed jobs in the past year alone, multiple bankruptcies, evictions, and restraining orders if you dug deep enough into public records. But apparently, these were the shining examples of womanhood my wife of 7 years had chosen as her primary life advisors. The sheer irony was not lost on me. When I first gently mentioned that these new friends seemed to have a lot of unnecessary drama in their lives, Vanessa's response was immediate, sharp, and brutal. The defensiveness came so fast it felt practiced in a mirror. "You don't get a say in my friendships," she snapped, her eyes narrowing. "I'm not trying to choose anything for you," I replied calmly. "I am just pointing out that every single conversation you have with them ends with you coming home angry at me for something I didn't even know I did. That is because you don't understand true feminine freedom. We support each other. We validate each other's lived experiences. We don't judge each other's choices like you do." But the support seemed incredibly one-directional. Monica posted constantly on social media about her messy situationship with some married professor at the local university. Jasmine shared screenshots of private texts from her children's fathers, calling them deadbeats while collecting massive child support from both. Amber documented each new multi-level marketing scheme with the same manic enthusiasm, never acknowledging the previous massive failures that had left her drowning in debt. These were the women teaching my wife about healthy boundaries. These were the voices she trusted far more than mine. One Tuesday evening in April, everything came to a massive head. We were eating takeout Thai from the cartons, something we used to do every week, back when things were simple. Back when a Tuesday night meant deep connection instead of a battlefield. I set down my fork slowly and studied her face. Vanessa had changed drastically over the past month. She was wearing new, expensive jewelry I had never seen before. There was a cold sharpness in her eyes that had not been there a month ago. Her whole posture had shifted from a loving partner to a bitter adversary. "I am not trying to control who you spend time with," I said, keeping my voice perfectly level. I am just wondering why you need to go out to bars 4 times this week. Because I want to. She crossed her arms tightly across her chest. Because these are my friends and we support each other. We don't judge each other's choices, unlike some people in this room. So, when I ask where you are going at 10 at night, that is me trying to control you? Her face flushed bright red. Yes, it is. I am an adult woman. I don't need your permission to leave my own house. I don't need to report my movements to you like you are my parole officer. I never said you needed permission, Vanessa. I asked because I care about your safety. You are driving home at 2 in the morning on dark roads. That is not controlling. That is called being a concerned spouse. She stood up from the island, her chair scraping violently against the hardwood floor. This is exactly what they said you would do. Turn it around and make me feel guilty for wanting my own independence. Make yourself the poor victim when I am the one being suffocated by this marriage. They, the toxic women from her empowerment circle, the ones who had never even met me, but apparently had my entire psychological profile figured out. Independence is fine, I said carefully, my heart pounding in my chest. But when your independence includes coming home at 2 in the morning smelling like cigarettes and men's cologne, maybe we should talk about what is actually going on here. Maybe, she said, her voice dropping to something freezing cold and final. I don't owe you any explanations anymore. Maybe I've been living my life according to what you think is appropriate for too long. Maybe I'm finally learning that my desires matter too. The kitchen went dead quiet except for the low hum of the refrigerator. I looked at her. I really looked at her. This was not the woman I married. This was a stranger wearing my wife's face. Something fundamental had completely shattered and I was only now seeing how far the rot had spread. All right, I said finally, my voice devoid of emotion. You are absolutely right. Your friendships are your choice. Your decisions are your choice. I cannot stop you from making them. She blinked, clearly expecting a massive screaming match. She had been braced for a fight and my calm agreement completely threw her off balance. Good, finally. And since we are talking about choices, I continued, standing up and starting to clear the dishes. I have got some of my own to make. The smug confidence in her expression flickered for just a fraction of a second. What is that supposed to mean? It means if you want complete, unchecked independence in your choices, then I get the exact same independence in mine. Fair is fair. You cannot have it both ways. She followed me to the kitchen sink. Don't be dramatic, Natalie. This is about female friendship, not our marriage. Is it? I turned to face her, looking dead into her eyes. Because from where I am standing, it looks like you are getting life advice from women who cannot maintain a single healthy relationship. Women who have left a trail of broken families, traumatized kids, and empty bank accounts everywhere they go. And you are treating their toxic opinions like the absolute gospel. Her eyes narrowed to slits. Don't you dare insult my friends. I'm not insulting anyone. I am making an objective observation based on publicly available information. But you are right. It is not my place to judge. Your choices are deeply personal. The way I said personal made her pause. She wasn't stupid. She could hear the massive shift in my tone. Could sense that something had irrevocably changed in me. What are you planning? She asked. A hint of genuine nervousness leaking into her voice. Nothing dramatic. Just exercising my own right to personal choices. She stared at me for a long moment, trying to figure out if I was bluffing. I was not. For the first time in weeks, the fog of hoping things would get better had finally lifted. My analyst brain had officially taken over. Treat this like a problem. Gather data. Execute a solution. Update 1 3 days after our kitchen confrontation, I did what any reasonable person would do when their spouse suddenly starts acting like a secretive teenager. I started aggressively digging. It took me about 20 minutes on social media to find the group. It is truly amazing how much people share on the internet when they think nobody important is paying attention. The profile was semi-public, visible enough to see the toxic dynamics at play, open enough to confirm every single suspicion I had been harboring. The feed was filled with aesthetic photos of smoothies captioned "Self-Care Sunday" and aggressive quotes about leaving dead weight behind. There were dozens of photos from downtown bars with hashtags like #FreedomFeels, #No Apologies, and #Living My Truth. The comment section was a constant toxic stream of members bashing their partners, cheering each other on for increasingly horrible behavior, and celebrating blatant boundary violations as personal growth. But then, one specific post caught my attention and made my blood run completely cold. It was from 2 Saturdays ago, posted at 2 in the morning. A group photo at some high-end uptown lounge. Vanessa was clearly visible in the background, laughing hysterically, leaning her entire body against a man. His arm was wrapped tightly around her waist and her hand was resting squarely on his chest in a way that did not read as casual in the slightest. I zoomed in on the man's face. My heart stopped beating. The breath left my lungs. It was Daniel, my ex-boyfriend from college. I sat there staring at the screen for 10 minutes, completely paralyzed. Vanessa had told me she was at Monica's apartment that night watching movies. She said they had a quiet girls' night in and lost track of time. But here she was, at a club, practically sitting on my ex-boyfriend's lap. I screenshotted everything. I saved the photos to a secure cloud drive. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the mouse. How did she even know Daniel? They had never met. I had cut him out of my life 12 years ago. I needed more information. Vanessa had left her iPad on the nightstand and like an idiot, she had her iMessages synced. I opened it. I scrolled down to a text thread with a number I recognized instantly. It was my mother's cell phone number. I clicked on the thread. I read the messages and I felt my entire world collapse into a black hole. Mom, Daniel is so excited to see you tonight at the lounge. Remember, just tell Natalie you are at Monica's place. We are so incredibly proud of you for exploring this, Vanessa. Vanessa, thank you, Patricia. I was nervous, but Daniel is so charming. It feels good to be treated like a real woman. Monica says, this is the path to my true self. Mom, we always knew Natalie's lifestyle was just a phase. 2 women playing house isn't a real future. Daniel can give you a real family. Have fun tonight, sweetie. My own mother. My own parents. They had secretly connected my wife with my ex-boyfriend. They were actively facilitating an affair to break up my gay marriage because they wanted me to be straight. They wanted to destroy my life just so they could have their precious golden boy back in the picture. The level of sociopathic manipulation was staggering. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. A terrifying, icy calm washed over my entire body. I grabbed my car keys, walked out the door, and drove straight to my parents' house in the wealthy suburbs of Austin. It was 8 p.m. I didn't knock. I used my spare key and walked right into their formal living room. My mother was reading a magazine, and my father was sipping scotch by the fireplace. They looked up, startled. Natalie, what are you doing here so late? My mother asked, putting her magazine down. I didn't yell. I kept my voice terrifyingly soft. I know about Daniel. I know about the texts. I know you set my wife up with my ex-boyfriend. The color completely drained from my mother's face. My father froze, his glass halfway to his mouth. For a second, there was absolute silence. Then, my mother did the unthinkable. She doubled down. She sat up straight, adjusting her cardigan, and looked at me with cold, calculating eyes. Natalie, you have to understand, she said, her voice dripping with condescension. We just want what is best for you and Vanessa, this lifestyle of yours. It isn't permanent. It isn't natural. Daniel is a wealthy, successful man. He can give Vanessa a real family, a real baby. We just wanted her to see what she is missing. If she leaves you for him, maybe you will finally wake up, get therapy, and realize this phase is over. You can find a good man, too. My father nodded in agreement. Your mother is right, kiddo. It is the natural order of things. You're 34. It's time to stop playing these liberal games and grow up. I stared at the two people who had raised me. They weren't my parents anymore. They were monsters. You pimped out my wife to my ex-boyfriend because you are homophobic bigots, I said, my voice razor sharp. You destroyed my marriage to satisfy your own sick, twisted delusions. Don't speak to your mother that way, my father barked, standing up. I will never speak to either of you again, I said, turning on my heel. You are dead to me, both of you. Enjoy the absolute hellfire I am about to rain down on your lives. I walked out of their house, got into my car, and made 2 phone calls. The first was to my brother, Ethan, who lives in Houston. He is the only one in the family who truly supports me. When I told him what our parents did, he started screaming curses into the phone. He told me his guest room was mine for as long as I needed. The second call was to Michael Carter, a ruthless divorce attorney known in Austin for completely destroying people in high-conflict divorces. I left a voicemail demanding an emergency meeting for the next morning. The next evening, Vanessa came home humming to herself. She seemed lighter, happier. Good day? I asked from the couch, masking my disgust. Great day. The girls and I had lunch to plan this weekend. Plan what? Just girl time. We are doing a wellness retreat in Dallas. Leaving Friday after work, back Sunday evening. Reconnect with ourselves. Spa treatments, meditation, the works. A wellness retreat in Dallas. I knew exactly what that meant. Daniel lived in Dallas now. I had seen his LinkedIn during my deep dive. Sounds expensive, I observed mildly. It is, but we all decided we deserve it. When is the last time you spent money on something that made you happy, Natalie? You need to live in the present. You are right, I smiled, looking at her. Maybe it is time I started investing in my own happiness too. Have a great time in Dallas. Friday afternoon, Vanessa came downstairs with a weekend bag packed. I noticed a brand new Victoria's Secret bag peeking out of the zipper. Expensive lingerie she hadn't worn for me in years. She kissed me on the cheek, the kiss of Judas, and walked out the door to Monica's waiting car. The moment her car disappeared around the corner, I went into absolute overdrive. I photographed every single room in our house. Every piece of furniture. Every appliance. I pulled copies of all our financial records, insurance documents, and investment statements. I transferred exactly half of our joint savings into a new, private, personal account. $42,500. Not a single penny more. Clean, legal, and fair. Then, I packed my car with my essentials, my important documents, and my cat. I left everything else behind. The furniture, the wedding photos, the life we built. I locked the door, left my wedding ring on the kitchen counter next to the empty Thai food cartons, and drove 3 hours to Houston. On Monday morning, I sat in Michael Carter's office. I handed him the massive folder of evidence. The texts from my parents. The photos of Vanessa and Daniel. The financial records. He flipped through it. His expression stoic. Texas is a community property state, but infidelity can affect the division of the estate. If marital funds were used for the affair, we will file immediately. I want her served at work, I said coldly. In front of everyone. Update 2. Vanessa got served the divorce papers at her high-end accounting firm on Tuesday afternoon at exactly 2 p.m. I know this because my phone exploded with 37 frantic messages and 22 voicemails within an hour. All variations of, "How could you do this? You are being insane. This is a massive mistake." I responded to absolutely none of them. Then her sister called, ignored. Then came the tearful voicemail at 3 in the morning. "Natalie, please. I know I made a mistake. Daniel meant nothing. My parents-in-law manipulated me. We can work through this. I will drop the empowerment group. Please don't throw away 7 years. Funny how she was suddenly willing to drop her sovereign circle the second real consequences arrived. But I wasn't just done with Vanessa. I was going to burn the entire toxic forest to the ground. First, I drafted a massive, highly detailed email. I attached the screenshots of the texts between my mother and Vanessa. I attached the photo of Vanessa and Daniel at the club. I wrote a clear, objective summary of exactly what my parents had orchestrated. Then, I sent that email to all 42 members of my extended family. Aunts, uncles, cousins, and most importantly, my ultra-religious, fiercely loyal, terrifying 85-year-old grandmother. The fallout was biblical. My grandmother called my mother and absolutely shredded her. Homophobic or not, in my family, orchestrating adultery is a mortal sin. My parents were instantly ostracized. They were uninvited from the upcoming family reunion, banned from Thanksgiving, and shunned by their own siblings. My mother texted me, begging me to take the email back, claiming her reputation at the country club was ruined because my aunt had gossiped to everyone. I blocked her number. Then, karma came for the empowerment circle. Monica's married professor got caught when his wife finally hired a private investigator. The PI pulled phone records and took photos. The messages were vile, explicit photos, plans to drain joint accounts, promises of a future. The professor's wife went nuclear. She filed for divorce, named Monica in the lawsuit, and then sent the entire dossier of evidence to Monica's employer, a massive downtown PR firm. A PR firm cannot have a public relations nightmare working for them. Monica was escorted out of the building by security 2 days later. Her social media went completely dark. Jasmine's situation was even messier. Both of her children's fathers independently found out she was leaving the kids with her elderly mother while she went out partying with Vanessa and Monica. The two fathers actually teamed up, hired a shark of a family lawyer, and filed for formal custody evaluations. They used her own Instagram stories videos of her doing tequila shots at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday as documented evidence. The judge was absolutely furious. Jasmine lost primary custody of both kids within 2 months. She was ordered to pay child support and had to move into a cheap trailer park because she could no longer afford her apartment without the child support checks she was using as a personal slush fund. Amber's third fiancé called off their wedding after discovering the mountain of debt she had been hiding. She had racked up $45,000 in credit card bills from her failed MLM inventory. He found out because an aggressive collections agency called his cell phone. He drove to her rented storage unit and found boxes upon boxes of unsold quantum vitality elixirs rotting away. He canceled the wedding, took back the $15,000 engagement ring, packed his bags, and left her with a leash she couldn't afford. As for Vanessa, Daniel dumped her the exact second the thrill of sneaking around with his lesbian ex's wife wore off. Once Vanessa was single, crying constantly, and facing a massive divorce, Daniel completely ghosted her. Vanessa's performance at her accounting firm tanked. She broke down crying in a meeting with a major corporate client, and they put her on a brutal performance improvement plan. She quit 2 weeks later before they could officially fire her. 2 months after I filed, Vanessa begged to meet me in person to sign the final settlement papers. We met at a neutral coffee shop. She looked completely broken. The arrogant, empowered woman from the kitchen was gone. She was thin, with dark circles under her eyes, her expensive clothes looking wrinkled and sad. "I fired my attorney," she whispered, staring at her untouched coffee. "I'm not fighting you. You can have the house, the savings, everything." "I don't want everything," I replied coldly. "I want exactly half. The house gets sold. We split the proceeds. That is fair." She started crying. "Monica's life is ruined. Jasmine lost her babies. Amber is bankrupt. Everyone from the group. We all lost everything. You threw away a 7-year marriage for a man who used you, and for women who didn't care about you at all," I said, standing up. My parents used you as a pawn, and you were stupid enough to play the game. Enjoy your freedom, Vanessa. I walked out into the Texas sun and never looked back. It has been 6 months now. The divorce is finalized. I bought a gorgeous high-rise condo in Houston near my brother. I got promoted at work. My parents are still begging for forgiveness through my brother, but they will never see or speak to me again. I am completely free. Top comments. User 1. I am absolutely floored by your parents. The level of homophobia and sociopathic manipulation to literally pimp out their daughter-in-law to an ex-boyfriend is straight out of a horror movie. Good on you for going nuclear on the whole extended family. User 2. The fact that the entire empowerment circle imploded because of their own documented social media posts is the sweetest karma I have ever read. Play stupid games. Win stupid prizes. Hope Vanessa enjoys the bed she made. User 3. Your analyst brain really saved you here. Draining exactly half the account, packing up, and leaving her the ring next to the takeout boxes is cold, calculated perfection. Wishing you the best in Houston.